shape are they in? Can you determine from that what can be automated and what should not be automated, or being able to set expectations with people based on that, saying, hey, look, we've got 500 tests that we're going to try and automate. Now let's figure out how to best attack that problem. And, are the materials in good enough shape to work with? So it's a question of prioritization, categorization, making sure things are in good enough shape so that you can do the work. And that's a lot of that front end work. Right. But as a part of that too, you've got to set expectations with outside groups, be it development, management, the executive layer, and be able to present to them basically a business plan of how you're going to do this work. Because as you said, it can be very expensive. And there have been projects that have spent a boatload of money, and then all of a sudden it gets wasted and becomes shelfware. One of the things that's really important is, knowing who's going to do the work, because not just anybody can do automation. I mean, you got to get the proper skills in place. And even then, it's like, if you pick a particular tool, find somebody who knows what's going on with that tool or the technologies that you're working with. So it's making sure that you've got things in order and straight before you even start writing a line of code.
Yes. And you use the term skills. The testers that are assigned to do the automation, one of the things I find is that, whether it's management or other departments that have the expectations that the testers are going to immediately be able to implement the automation. And what is a big failure, I find, is that, yes, you learn the tool. You can learn the tool. It's easy enough to do. But test design of what you want to automate is a little different than manual test design. So can you touch upon that and explain that a little bit?
Yeah, that goes to the point of people's skills level and knowledge base. I have a view of basically two basic types of test person in industry. You have the business people, or the business testers, that understand the application itself, the business logic, the business rules, right, all of that. And then you have the other group, which is where I fall into, which are the technical people. We understand the technology stacks. We understand how the technology gets applied to solve that business problem, and how to work with other groups to say, hey, look, in order for this functionality to work right, we got to make sure the back-end database is working, or that middle layer. So there's those skill sets. And I'm not saying that people can't learn how to do automation. It's just there are certain skills that come into play, because automation, no matter what you do, there's still some technical aspects. You have to understand what you're working with. So if you're working with the application from the GUI layer, you have to understand how those GUIs work, the objects within them. If you're at the services layer, API layer, how do you program things to talk to us correctly? Even for developers, when they're down at the unit test level with these unit test harnesses, how to properly write that. And part of that is looking at your tests that you have for manual means and saying, do I have enough information here to determine what it is I need to test, how to get there and test it, and then to validate it, so that, I can go through the process of getting in there, navigating to where I want, inputting what I want, and then be able to check it and say, is this good or not? And there's that logic process that goes with it. So
yes,
it takes a little bit of what I like to call a programmer's mindset, but some people are very logical. Others, they can learn that. Mm-hmm. But it's those types of skills that automation lends itself to. And then, as a part of what I'm going to talk about is when you look at those manual test cases, is they don't have to be minute detail, click here, do this, whatever it is, but enough detail to say, what am I doing here? What am I looking for? And how am I going to prove, what I'm looking for is correct? So if you have a test case that says, make sure the user can log on and, run a report on this system, it's like, okay, I need more details than that, but I don't need minute details. So you have questions of priority and dependencies of the test too, because some tests may be dependent upon another to run, either because of setting up a data condition or seeding data and things like that, or you have to run this test first to get things ready so you can go in and do this other. So there's part of that of categorization and prioritization that has to happen.
Well, that leads to what I tell mobile testers is that to really have a solid sense of coverage is you really have to understand the architecture of what you're trying to understand the sequence of what happens when. So, for example, I always tell people, well, what is the call to the operating system? And, mobile testers and I should say, people who jump into automation, they just want to record and playback, and it's so much more than that.
It's a lot more than that. I mean, don't get me started on record playback. It's that leads to my favorite saying that I've had for a long time. It's automation, not auto magic.
That's right. Yes, that exactly. And that's something that I think I know quite a few testers that I've personally worked with that think they can jump into automation. That's why I asked the question about skills. It doesn't happen overnight. It is not magic. It takes years of practice, and it also, you really have to have the skill set that is understanding more than just what's on the screen. And I don't think enough people really do understand that. In my instance, the automation problems happen because the management said, "Oh, you can do this in a couple of weeks," and it takes so much more.
And that's where I'm going to talk about, making other groups understand and get around those misunderstandings and misconceptions and incorrect perceptions of what the work really is and how to do it. Because to me, that's the number one problem, and has been for a long, long time, is the perceptions and misconceptions of really what the work is and what is involved with it. I mean, it's not exactly rocket science, but it's not, flipping burgers or, things like that. There are certain things that you have to think about consciously and be aware of and work with. You just can't go in and slapdash it.
I think there's a big lack of understanding of design, whether it's from the development point of view or from the testing point of view. And that has to be directly applied when you are thinking about creating automation. And it's exactly what you touched upon. And I got to tell you, again, I'm really looking forward to your session. I can't express that enough. I really am looking forward to all of your sessions, Jay, you and I will be doing it together. We'll be working on our session together. And then, of course, Mark. I always learn from Mark as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you. For sure.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Tune in next time for another radio session with STP Radio, and we'll see you in November.